Bad news for Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers. Good news for Kristaps Porzingis and the Boston Celtics. And Derrick Rose, is he done for good? It's all right now on the Locked On NBA podcast.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there. Welcome back to the Locked On NBA podcast. I am so happy to see you. Oh my God, my microphone is so crazy right now. It's because I was using this for Celtics Media Day, which is what I do for my real job, covering the Boston Celtics and hosting the Locked On Celtics podcast. I'm one of your usual Wednesday hosts. I'm John Karalis. Find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast, on Twitter at Nola Jake. Yeah, we're kind of fired up for this show.
I'm giddy. I am happy.
Basketball's back, right? Like you had media day, right before we recorded this. I've got it on Monday with the Pelicans. Like it's here. Like the season is here, and we're getting classic prime choice NBA cuts today with a Kawhi Leonard injury right off the bat. Like, oh boy, the season's here.
We'll share a little bit from Kristaps Porzingis on media day as well, and later on we'll talk about Derrick Rose. Today's show brought to you by Game Time. Download that Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase of those last minute tickets. Oh, we got to start with Kawhi Leonard. The Clippers, Jake, they are opening a new arena, state-of-the-art, brand new arena. They had it set up. Just keep the band together. They had a decent team. They had a guy in Paul George that they could, lean on while Kawhi Leonard just managed his way through the season. But nope, here we are. Paul George is gone. Now Kawhi Leonard, knee soreness. Oh, but Lawrence Frank, it's going down. Shams Charania reports that there was an off-season procedure done, and now training camp's coming around. They're not putting him through drills. It's just focusing on strengthening. Here we go again with Kawhi Leonard. Jake, what? WTF?
Nothing good. Right? This is already like DEFCON 5 code red before the season even starts for the Clippers here. Shams is saying he underwent a procedure in his knee this offseason. You remember, and we talked about it here on Locked On, NBA for the Everydayers earlier in the offseason. He basically got kicked off of Team USA because this dude's not healthy. This is something that's lingering since March, and the swelling is just going down, and they're going to hold him out of a lot of training camp here. This doesn't bode well for the Clippers. I think, and I've said it on this show, they've had the worst offseason in the NBA, in my opinion, by far. FanDuel has them losing 10 more games than they lost last season. That is a significant drop. Like this is why I've long said they overthought the second apron. They overthought the second apron, and you should have just paid Paul George, because all of this added flexibility that if Kawhi Leonard goes down, you have some flexibility. What are you going to do that's going to make your team better? And the answer is nothing. If he goes down, they're screwed. I don't care about their depth.
Depth, like honestly, they've got no star here anymore that's going to carry them. James Harden, what's James Harden going to do? I cannot believe that the Clippers did they watch the same NBA that we have watched? James Harden is not James Harden, quote unquote, James Harden anymore. That downturn started when they stopped calling some of those crazy fouls. I remember that conversation from a few years ago. We were talking about who was going to be most impacted, James Harden, Trae Young, and look at who was most impacted, those two guys. So, and I got to get my little Trae Young right there in every show. But Harden, not the same. Paul George, gone. They could have kept him. And now, surprisingly, no, very unsurprisingly, everybody saw this coming. You cannot rely on Kawhi Leonard to be healthy anymore. And I think last year, the rule where you had to, like the rule to eliminate the load management,
the 65 game rule.
That hurt the Clippers. That hurt because Kawhi was pushing it. A lot of guys were pushing it. The guys talked about it in yesterday's podcast. And here we are pushing too hard. Kawhi was one of those guys that the Clippers should have eaten. Whatever happened, didn't matter. He pushed too hard. He's only got, 50 games in him max, including the playoffs. This is a disaster, unmitigated disaster, a complete laughingstock from the Clippers. Again, they're opening a new arena, and they're going to open it without Paul George, without Kawhi Leonard, and a shell of James Harden. That is a disaster.
Let's also not forget, look, they lost Russell Westbrook, who was good for them. Like, he had played well.
That's
in
how
a
bad
role.
this is.
Yeah,
you're
right?
you're legitimately saying losing Russell Westbrook is, that hurts. Losing Russell Westbrook should not hurt your team in 2024. And it does.
Shouldn't, but he played well off the bench. He was like in that role. And they also tried to like scapegoat everything on him in what was just like one of those like media spins that was terrible. I have a quote from Lawrence Frank at their media day here. And it goes, quote, "I think our defense is going to be significantly improved due to the offseason acquisitions. I think there's a great deal of pride in our group and what we've done, where we feel extremely fortunate, where we have the longest active streak of winning seasons." They were talking also there about how Derrick Jones Jr. is going to make their defense better. Great. You know who's not leading you to the playoffs? Derrick Jones Jr. when Kawhi Leonard's not playing and Paul George is, putting up incredible numbers with the Philadelphia 76ers here. This team annoys me. Look, there are legitimate reasons to worry about the second apron and the restrictions it has. You don't want to go into the second apron for a role player. For Paul George, you go into the second apron and now you don't have him. Cool. You're going to have a top 10 defense. That's awesome. And you're still going to miss the playoffs.
Is this real or fake? Just ask John and Jake.
Jake Madison, this streak of winning seasons is going to end. Real or fake?
Real. As it's so real. This is going to be a pretty fall from grace. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm so worked up that this team annoys me so much with what they did. This was not hard to avoid. It wasn't hard to avoid at all.
I am enjoying, like, for people watching on YouTube, the different shades of red that you're turning as you're talking about the Clippers. Yeah, man, I think it's real too. The West is so tough. And I don't think the Clippers are going to end up with a winning season. I think they're done. They are done. They're no longer a playoff team, and they are. And maybe they just saw this coming. Let's give the Clippers maybe an ounce of, maybe they said Paul George isn't going to do anything for us, so let's just stay under that second apron. And when the comeuppance happens in the middle of the season, we don't fall under second apron rules where we have to match these salaries and so on and so forth. We can make it allows us to make trades that are a little less restrictive, and we can start our process of blowing it up. Maybe it's they were hiding behind like a lot of lies, but they are sitting there privately, possibly saying, "Look, man, this is over, and we know it's over, so we're not going to play. It doesn't matter if we're opening up a new building. It's better for us to crash and burn now and have people still come to this new arena because they just want to see it, and then maybe turn around and rebuild quickly." Am I giving them too much credit?
Yeah, well, because cool. What are you going to get, right? They don't own their draft picks. This coming draft, it's a swap between them and OKC from the Paul George trade, who's no longer on their team. Next year in 2026, they owe it to OKC. Hey, good news. They have their own pick in 2027. 2028, it goes to Philly. 2029, it's a swap between them and Philly, right? Like, it's not a good scenario here for the Clippers. Can you recoup a bunch of assets for Kawhi Leonard right now? I don't think so. That's going to be their most tradable piece. Zubac maybe gets you a first-round pick if you can find that deal, but they're not in good position here. FanDuel has their win total at 38.5, like under 500. That's what they turned that team into from last year. I'm
going to finish with this. Kawhi Leonard, in his 5 seasons, but one did not play, has played 57, 52, 52, and then 68 games last year, which is by far, but I mean, obviously a mistake. What does he get to this year? Does he get to 50? We'll play over.
So look, I'm not happy he's
50 games.
I'll go over. I think he'll be a little bit ready and they're going to push it. I can understand the under on this. Look, I'm not saying I'm happy that he's hurt. I want to be clear on that, right? No one's happy he's hurt. The league's better with him healthy. Coming. But the reality of the situation here for the Clippers is not good.
Under 50 for me. I don't have any faith that he's going to be healthy. And I'm going under 50 partly because I think they're going to be bad. And at the end of the season, he's just going to be like, I'm not doing this again. He's 32. He's going to be 33 this season. He's going to be like, I only got a couple seasons left. I am shutting it down. I think he shuts it down at like 38 games. Done. All right. Kristaps Porzingis is on his way back from his own injury. Encouraging news, which I heard firsthand. I was there for a Celtics Media Day. We'll talk about that when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is hooking up every single NFL fans. I know there's a lot of you. You can start the season with a big, big, big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. If you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can go to the FanDuel app on the same page where you're betting. You can have your play-by-play, the latest stats, and so much more. So you just go to one place and go through everything. If you've got a hunch in the middle of the game, you can scroll through it. If you want to place a bet, you can. It's right there. All you got to do is place a $5 bet right now on FanDuel, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So that's kind of a win for you right there. You place a $5 bet. Doesn't matter what happens with that bet. You get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. All those NFL odds are there. I'm a Patriots fan currently, getting my comeuppance, talking about comeuppance. This is it. You got to take the hits. I looked. So the Patriots are 10-point underdogs to the San Francisco 49ers. Ouch. But hey, wherever I want to lay my $5, I know I'm going to get 200 in bonus bets. Go to FanDuel.com, download that app. Set your budget, set your limits so you're gambling responsibly at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On Clippers. See what they're saying about Kawhi. Check out all of our team podcasts there check out Locked On Celtics. We're about to talk about Porzingis. Check out Locked On Pelicans. Plenty of Zion Williamson, plenty of Pels. They're going to be better than the Clips this year. So
yeah, I feel good about that one.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty good. One of the things that I'm going to be covering here on my Locked On Celtics podcast, where I'm going to be playing Kristaps Porzingis audio, where he's talking about his ankle feels great. And the real money quote is from Brad Stevens, who said of Porzingis that they are very encouraged by his recovery from ankle surgery, this weird kind of tendon. If you remember the Kurt Schilling Red Sox bloody sock thing, that was basically the same injury on the inside of his ankle. And they said they're not only encouraged, maybe a little surprised. Jake, the 5-month, he was given a 5 to 6 month recovery time. 5 months is about Thanksgiving. 6 months is about Christmas. It's a big difference there for the Celtics. I find this very encouraging. And if he's coming back on the 5-month end, that changes a lot of what the rest of the East might be playing for, because Porzingis will now get December to kind of play through and start ramping up, and they'll hit Christmas, the pseudo start to the season, with a fully healthy Celtics team. Porzingis, the health questions have been part of the reason why the Knicks and the Sixers and the Bucks have been kind of like, hey, we've got a shot here. What do you think? If he comes back early, does that separate the Celtics? So
I'll be honest with this. I don't really care. And hear me out here. I don't care. That team is so deep and so good. And as we talked about the past 2 weeks, Joe Mazzulla is going to have them ready to go at the start of the year. They're going to be fine. They were, without Porzingis last year, they were 21-4, right? Like, it's not like, while he's an important player and was definitely important for them in the playoffs when he was working his way back and everything, it's not like he unlocks them, right? Like, if he goes down, they're still going to win games. So I look at this, and it's very different than the Clippers situation where he's like a luxury. There's a word in Louisiana for it called lagniappe, and it just means like a little something extra here. And that's kind of, to me, what he is. They can win with him. Certainly. They can definitely win without him. They're still the deepest team in the league. They're the defending champions that are well coached, that have star players that can carry them. It sounds like maybe Jason Tatum is going to kind of be got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder too. It is going to be kind of in a prove it year, and that's a lot of motivation. Like, I get that this is a big deal, but for me, kind of looking at it somewhat removed from Boston, they're totally fine. November, December, Celtics are still coming, and still the class of the NBA.
Yeah, I guess the question here is, if Porzingis comes back early and the Celtics can start to separate themselves earlier, that changes, like it did last season, where they start to rest guys and how they go into the playoffs. And the Celtics being fully healthy heading into the playoffs and having a healthy Porzingis heading into the playoffs is a major advantage. If they are struggling for seeding, let's say, if Porzingis doesn't come back until December, which means January is the ramp up, which means it's just, you're getting to the All-Star break without having that fully kind of realized team. It does maybe put a little bit of pressure on them. I'm throwing out the hypothetical. I agree with you. I think the Celtics team, they've brought everybody back. They have the entire team back. They know exactly how to win without Porzingis. It helps them that Mitchell Robinson is also not coming back for a while for New York.
That was big.
That helps them because New York's going to struggle without Mitchell Robinson to defend the way they want to. And Hartenstein is out in OKC now. So they are not able to, if you're putting Julius Randle at center, which is what a lot of people expect, that changes the entire dynamic of the defense. I trust Thibodeau to figure something out, but that still leaves rim protection a little lacking in New York, which impacts their offense, right? They're not going to get out in transition and all of that. Guys talked about that in yesterday's podcast. So whole point of that is New York is going to be less of a competitor, potentially. The Bucks.
So like that Mitchell Robinson injury to me is more impactful overall compared to the Porzingis injury, even if Porzingis is like by far the better player.
Yeah. And so it is because of what the Knicks need. So looking at the competition, it's more of the Celtics getting whole more quickly. I don't know what the Sixers are going to be, like how quickly they're going to gel and what Joel Embiid is going to look like with his knee and injuries. I don't know what the Bucks are going to look like. No one really does because of what they looked like last year. And Brook Lopez is a year older and he's a big, key to their defense. So we don't know exactly how good that competition in the East is going to be. The sooner the Celtics get whole, the sooner they can start to potentially pull away, the quicker they can move into setting up the chessboard. You know what I mean? They're getting the guys ready. And if you give any top seed an opportunity to be healthy and rested and fresh for the top of the playoff run, that gives them a real, almost unfair advantage.
Oh, yeah. Look, if they're healthy earlier, right? Like that's just going to make them harder to beat in the postseason where they were already really tough to beat overall. That probably just means they don't lose some of those game twos in the postseason, right? Like that was kind of the thing, that game 1, game 2, where they like seemed bored or something like that when some of those games. If you just get them already figuring out whatever little quirks, kinks they need to go through, which look, it's the whole team again, as you mentioned, they don't really have a ton of those. That's just going to make them tougher later on, I think. And maybe if you're the Knicks, if you're the Sixers, if you're the Bucks or any of those teams, you're going to hope that maybe an injury for whatever reason throws the Celtics off going into the playoffs. And maybe that's your chance. You get them back in November, you're not going to run into any of those issues, it seems like. So let me ask you this. Given how good and deep they are, would they be better served bringing him back on the latter end in December versus November?
I'm a believer of when a player is ready, he's ready. And so whenever that is, he plays. And you can maybe take a longer ramp up. You can say he's going to have an 18 minutes restriction at the beginning and you just slowly bring him back. But if he's 100%, he's 100%. And I'm not too, I'd rather have him start if he's ready in early December or late November, then get him there, get him playing. And then I'd rather have him take every other game off to recover and then do that little trick than sit him more and bring him back later. I'd rather just get him back acclimated and just getting him a little bit of a rhythm without pushing him too hard. So Porzingis targeting potentially early December return. Will Derrick Rose return at all? So we'll talk about that after he's released. Next. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. That's the app that you need to be using if you're buying last-minute tickets. And it's not just the sports. I know the NBA is back, WNBA playoffs. Maybe you want to see if you can sneak in and catch one of these amazing games. You can find it on the Game Time app, but also music, like a concert, theater, comedy. It's all there. Game Time Picks is their new feature. It lets you helps you find those tickets more easily. I'm flustered by how great Game Time is. I've used Game Time plenty. Just used it recently a few weeks ago to go to a Red Sox game, RIP Red Sox season. But if you use the Game Time Picks, it filters out the fluff, shows you the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time. You can toggle the all-in pricing, set that to on, then you see your final price you're going to pay when you check out. That you can see the panoramic view from your seat, so you know what you're getting into. And they've got the lowest price guarantee, so they'll get you 110% of the difference. Credit that to you if you find that ticket somewhere else for less. They are here for you, so take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA. It's the name of this podcast for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, welcome back here to the Locked On NBA podcast. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're not by now, if you're still here, hey, maybe you like the show enough to subscribe, watch the show on YouTube. Get into the comment section. Let us know what you think is next for Derrick Rose, because Derrick Rose requested to be waived by the Memphis Grizzlies. They obliged. He gave up his money and is now a free agent. Jake, why would Derrick Rose do this? Is he done?
Look, if he's asking to be released and getting out of $3.3 million, and he's not going to get that much anywhere else in the league, he wants to still play. While we might think his career is done, and it feels that way with this move, he clearly hopes that it can still go on in some capacity. And look, this is a guy that has so much talent, had so much early success, even with a small reinvention of his career, whether it was with the Knicks or another team where, he was kind of bouncing around, getting close to most improved, getting some votes for sixth man of the year in Minnesota, in Detroit. He wants to keep playing, and I guess you can't rule him out landing somewhere.
I guess, yeah. I mean, look, I'm never going to tell a guy to not play professional basketball if a team is willing to pay him to play professional basketball. Who am I to say that? Buddy, go get your money. Go keep playing. If some team offered me money right now, I'd go do it. So why not? People don't understand, being in that locker room, being around a team, it's intoxicating. It's so much fun. And so, yeah, I do not begrudge him the opportunity to go play somewhere else, but he is also turning 36 this season. And I think his career is done. It is over. And it's I, I don't know.
He's weird to try and like figure out kind of
That's
like
the
in
thing,
the
right? Like,
pantheon, like what's his right? Like that's what this is more about. It's not where's Derrick Rose going to play next year. Look, it should be on the Chicago Bulls. They should tank. They should sign Derrick Rose. They should play him 30 plus minutes a night and make everybody happy. But that's not going to impact kind of the larger conversations around the league other than be a cool moment. He's tough to figure out what his legacy exactly is. And before we started recording, I posed this to you, right? Like he's not going to make the Hall of Fame, right? It doesn't feel like he's anywhere close to a Hall of Fame level player. Is he going to be one of the more impactful, influential players that is not in the Hall of Fame just purely for the Derrick Rose rule, which is part of the collective bargaining agreement, where if you win MVP at a young age on that rookie contract, whatever it might be, you get 5% more on the salary cap. Like that's a significant thing.
It's yeah. And it's shown itself a few times. I remember the Derrick Rose rule was what kept the Boston Celtics from trading for Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that was part of it. You can only have one guy on that. Yep.
Before Anthony Davis and his dad went, no, we don't want to go to Boston. Like Danny Ainge would have pulled that trigger before any of that. He would have paired him and Kyrie Irving, but he didn't have the chance because of the Rose rule and the restrictions. Those restrictions have changed, by the way.
Yeah, they have.
But it's what sucks is that his legacy is this part of the collective bargaining agreement and having a rule sort of named after him, even though it's not really. It's the designated rookie or
the designated rookie extension.
Yes. So look, he was so good in his first 3.5 seasons, basically, before he got hurt, that aura that he had continues to exist. It burned so bright that people still are like, man, that's Derrick Rose. Like when you use the guy's name to describe the guy, that is like a sign of how good he is, man. Well, what's so big about Derrick Rose? Man, he's Derrick Rose. Like that's what he earned being as good as he was. But what's his legacy? I mean, his legacy is going into the annals of the all-time what if teams. Like he's Brandon Roy's point guard. You know what I mean? Like he's in that group of guys that were so good early and something took them away. And it'd be a hell of a what if team where guys who had this big burning bright star eventually like something kind of robbed them of it. But that's where he is. That's just where he is. The name recognition, it's a great name, by the way. Derrick Rose is a great name. But that is, to me, the end of it. Like he's had a nice run. He's rediscovered some of the magic here or there, but it's not a Hall of Fame career for sure. And at this point, he's just kind of like trying to squeeze a few more minutes out of his legs.
Which again, good for him. Try and do it. Look, they just ran him into the ground early. It feels like he was one of the kind of like first guys under Thibodeau, right? Where it was like, oh, he's going to play them all the minutes. If you look at Derrick Rose, the minutes played per game in the playoffs, right? 44.7 minutes per game in 7 playoff games, 42.4 next year. He played 16 playoff games in 2010, 2011 and averaged 40.6 minutes per. That is nuts to me in this day and age with all of that. And it's just, as you said, kind of a big, like, what if. I got to see him play his 1 year in college at Tulane, my senior year there. That was really cool. We were really excited. You knew he was going to be the number 1 overall pick. A ref almost threw me out of that game, which I probably shouldn't repeat the rest of the story here. For the record,
this sounds like a Locked On NBA After Dark version.
Yeah, something like that. You can yell at the refs a bunch, and they can actually demand that you are thrown out of the game just for being in their ear.
That's amazing.
I was quiet after that. So I have fond memories of Derrick Rose. Like, it's just sad. I hope he can find a place, have a couple more minutes in, like, retire and go do whatever. But yeah, he's always going to be kind of one of those, like, what if, but like, what an incredible 3.5 seasons.
I like your Chicago idea. The problem is Chicago doesn't know what they want to do. And they're not.
Well, they should tank and they should play Derrick Rose as much as he wants.
Yes, they should tank and they should, but they're not. They could have. They're kind of pseudo tanking, but yeah, play Derrick Rose, get him out there, put him in a Bulls uniform, let him get that last ovation, let him ride out on a high note. Actually playing games, not like a fake training camp kind of return. Get him out there on the floor. I agree with you. I think that's how this should go. And Chicago, just make the decision. Just make the decision. Just tank, will you? All right, that's another show. Locked On Bulls. Go check them out. We are so happy that you have chosen to listen and watch us here on Wednesdays. We got rotating hosts all week long, but on Wednesdays, it's us. I'm John Karalis, host of Locked On Celtics. Find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison at NOLA Jake on Twitter, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
All right, tomorrow, Pat the Designer, Nick Angstead, they got you covered. Media days are happening. The season is back. So excited to have you on board. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you are telling your friends that they should also be listening to and watching the Locked On NBA podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.